Whereas in Canada, abortion is actually not a constitutional right, and it's actually not even a right in Canada. And people keep saying that it's a right. So let's go over a little bit of history of how abortion came to Canada. All right. So we have to go all the way back to Trudeau's dad, Pierre Elliott Trudeau. And so in 1967, he introduced a bill that made divorce, abortion, and birth control all legal. Now, it was all in the same bill on purpose because that way if an MP wanted to have divorce legal, they had to be okay with having abortion legal. So it was passed. But even though it was passed, abortion was still not legal. Still against the law to have an abortion unless the mother's health was at risk. But mother's health was really vague, and people didn't really know what that meant. So Trudeau set up abortion committees in the hospital. So if a woman wanted an abortion, she had to go to this committee and ask for permission and prove her health was at risk. But health was still really vague. So some committees said yes to pretty much every abortion, and some said no to every abortion. So there was obviously a problem. So in 1988, this went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court struck down the law for all the reasons that I just said. But they said that a new law had to be written. So at the time, in 1988, the Prime Minister was Brian Mulroney. So he set up a committee, and all the parties got involved, and they introduced a brand new bill. So this was Bill C-43. So this bill said abortion was illegal, against the law, unless the health of the mother was at risk, but it was up to the doctor and not a committee. All right, so this passed through the House, and then it went to the Senate. Now, the problem when it got to the Senate, it was that the pro-choice senators obviously didn't want to have the bill, but the pro-life senators said, you know what, we don't like health at risk. This is putting us exactly where we were before the court, except for without the committees. It's just a doctor instead. We're going to have the same problems. So we want you to go back and be more clear on what you mean by the health. And Brian Mulroney said, if you don't pass this, I'm never going to do another law. And they didn't pass it. And so Brian Mulroney said, no, I'm not doing another law. And just like that, abortion was just taken off of our criminal code. So we ended up with no law at all. So to be clear, there was never a time when they fought for the right to have an abortion.